Hello, welcome to Tony Dock Station. This is not a proper video, but I haven't put anything up for a couple of weeks, so I just wanted to put something out as to what I've been up to. So I have done a little bit on the layout, still no scenery yet, sorry, I'm itching to get that done as well. But I've got trains working now. I did have some problems and I've sort of sorted most of those. So I'll talk you through what I've done. Okay, so I'm using iTrain as my computer control. I know I haven't done any videos on this, and that's because I'm still learning it myself, so I don't want to teach you bad things. I've had a lot of help from James at DCC Train Automation. I've also had a lot of help from people on the Digital Train Control Facebook group as well, and there's one particular guy called Ian who helped me out with this as well. So I'm still learning. But the nuts and bolts of it are, this is obviously my layout, sort of the control window, and as you can see the red bits show where trains currently are, and it means that that block is occupied. If you don't know much about the digital control, look back through my videos. I explain sort of how it's wired up and what it does, but in a nutshell, basically each sort of section of track is a section, a block, and these white little squares dictate those blocks. So between this point junction here and this curve, there's a block for each line, so only one train can be in there at a time. Well, you can have two in there, but I won't get into that story for another day. For example, these sidings, they are a block. This lane here is a block, so that would be 1 into 2 into 3, and the whole layout is divided up into blocks, and the computer knows which block is which and where trains are. And then what I've had to do as well is speed calibrate my trains, or speed profile the trains, so that basically shuttles them back and forth over a block at each speed step and works out how long it takes, because you can put in all the measurements in sort of centimetres of how long the track is and stuff like that. But without sort of getting into too complicated, I will talk about that another day. Don't worry, I'm not just going to gloss over it, but it's something that I will go into when I've sort of got my head around it as much and I'm in a comfortable position to explain it. But what you need to know is that the computer knows how fast the train travels over what distance, and all the tracks are measured and put into that. So if I say, for example, take this block here, as you can see, I've told it it's a station, that it is 91 centimetres long, and then in this sort of section here I can tell it that I want it to stop 8 centimetres before the end of the block and to start breaking 10 centimetres into the block on one direction, and you can have it on a different way. So it's all done by centimetres, and that's real centimetres, not scale centimetres. So that length of track up there is 91 centimetres long, and it then knows, the simple maths equation, speed equals distance over time and stuff like that. It knows how long it should take at what speed to travel what distance, and that's sort of how it knows where it is. And then the confirmation of that is the track detection. So if you see, I've got where a train is here, my 416 EMU, this little bit is lit up red, and then you'll see the block next to it where there is nothing, that is sort of greyed out. So that knows that there is something in that block, and that knows that there isn't something in that block being detected. So that's the nuts and bolts of the layout. And then when you get into particular trains, if I take my 108 DMU and take the properties of that, this is the speed profiling. So each speed step, it's worked out the scale speed forward and backward of how it actually performs in real life. Then you can configure all your sort of sounds and stuff like that, lighting, and you can tell it simulate the acceleration and braking rather than doing it within the decoder. So in my decoders, they're all values 3 and 4 are all set to 0, and I've then calibrated it within here, and so that the computer then tells it how to speed up and slow down. But I'm going into more detail, and I should have done already for this, but it's just so you've got a rough idea of what I'm talking about, the computer, what information the computer has in order to do what it's doing. So I will do a detailed video on that, but just not yet. There's still a few bits I need to get my head around, but that is sort of the layout. In terms of operating it, there's different ways of doing it. So if I say, for example, I've already got this 416 EMU on this there, so if I want to just move that one to the next block along, just for example, I can click it, drag it to that block there, and then I've got an option. I can just reserve the route, so that won't move the train, but it won't let anything else go into that area. I can route it, and that will then dictate the route and then start the train moving. I can shunt it, which is the same as routing, but just at a shunt speed, and set will be, I think, I'm not 100% sure on this, but I think it's if I'd then picked a route where there was point work, it would change the point work for you in advance, but I'll just click out of that. You can also go into it and do things like schedules, routes and things like that. So for my 108 DMU, which I've got up here, I've set up routes, so for example the DMU passenger service, on what type of train it is, so that you can say, so that's the DMU train, it's a sort of a branch line train, for example, and it can't go into certain areas, so then I can go into the I think it was the train type section here, yeah, my branch DMU. So for example, it's only allowed access to the branch line and the parcel sidings and storage sidings there, so that won't then go onto the main up and down line. In theory, we'll see how that works later. And the same with sort of my other routes. You can say that it can only go into certain areas. So my class 50, which is carrying a rake of coaches, I obviously don't want that going into the dock area, so I believe I've done it here. If I go to, again, train types, my passenger service, this time I put no access to, and it's not allowed anywhere on the branch line, which then means it can't get to the dock area. But if I wanted it on the branch line, I would then put in there the blocks of the dock area and say that no, you're not allowed in there. With that, you can just click play and it will start doing some auto driving, yeah, that's the word, auto driving, and it will do certain things. So that's a very, very quick overview of what I've been doing in train control. It has taken me a little while to get my head around it, and I've only been able to do it when I've been up here, because you can do it away from the layout, but some things you do just want to test as you're programming, so you sort of need to be plugged into the layout. So it's taken me a little while, but I'm at a point where I can run things and I'm happy, but there's still obviously a lot of programming left to be done on this. It's just it's at a functioning stage now. I still do have some other problems which I'm still trying to work out. So my 37, some of the sounds work, the lighting works, well, I say some of the lighting works, the main directional lighting works, but the cab light doesn't. But then some sounds don't work, and I'm not quite sure why, because if I put it on the programming track, which is not part of iTrain, just the actual DL5000 programming track, that will play the sound under those functions quite well. But then for some reason iTrain won't play some of the sounds. It plays the horns, it plays the engines, throttling up and down, but it doesn't play things like the uncoupling or the whistles and things like that. But so it's to say, there's still a few little teething areas that I need to get sorted out on here. But again, I've waffled quite a bit about iTrain, but if you are interested in it, I will do probably a whole detailed video on iTrain. Not necessarily tutorial, but just maybe a review type video, and then if that gets enough interest and I feel confident in it, then I'll talk through what I've done with the help of many other people. So this has taken me a little while to get my head round, but that's just because I think I haven't had a lot of time. So I'm up here for an hour or two, just get going, and then have to sort of come down because of family and kids and stuff. It's by the time you just get into it, you have to stop. So I think if you had sort of like a few days or maybe even a week to sit down and properly do this, it would be a lot easier. But it's just the way it is for me, I'm afraid. So I'll stop waffling on about this particular bit now, but it's just so you guys know what is going on. Okay, so what's actually been happening on the layout then? Not much. I've been in a bit of a dilemma where I was having so many sort of problems with this. Things that I didn't do when I first laid the track that I should have done, that would have made life a lot easier now, but you don't know that when you first start. You only learn these things as you go on. So I was at a point where I'm just like contemplating taking the layout up and redesigning the track, and I am doing some designs because I might still take the layout up and redesign the track and relay it in a way that I know now how to lay it, and there's certainly a lot of things that I would do differently, but I have been making sort of minor corrections. So say for example the three-way point, working that around there was a lot of derailment happening there, and that was just a bit of kink in the track, and I had to trim a bit back, put a new bit in just to make the join a little bit better, and some other areas where I was getting some derailments. I still am getting a couple here and there, but that's just teething. And I've been reluctant to fully ballast until I had this layout running mostly error-free, and then also didn't want to ballast and then go, well, I'm going to rip it up and redesign anyway. So I've delayed the ballasting and just until I get my head exactly where I want it to be with this. But yeah, it's making me a little bit happier. I've put in a couple of signals which work. I put in obviously some catenary, just really because I just wanted to do it. I've had it sitting around and haven't put any green stuff down on this board since I started, and I'm just itching to do some scenery. This is a little scratch built platform which was actually from the Great Model Railway Challenge, which was built for that. I didn't actually build this, well, not on my own. It was weathered by the other guys on the team, but I sort of put together the platform. But again, that was obviously a whole team effort, but I'm just putting bits in just to start seeing things and where I want them and particular spacing and that. So there's a few things going on in that sense. Been thinking sort of obviously about the dock area, and obviously this will be the dock lanes, and my whole idea from the beginning was to make this edge the docks. And again, from the Great Model Railway Challenge, this bit of scenery that was saved, thinking about sort of making this the sort of the dock edge and putting in some maybe a short bit of fake water to reflect that is the dock wall. That would obviously be sunken down. It's just the way it was before. And then just again from scenery from the Great Model Railway Challenge, which this was my pre-build item, and that's going to be some sort of area over there. But just placing scenery, just because I'm getting bored of looking at brown baseboards. Again, this little thing was from that show as well. Let's just pop that in there. There you go. Why not? Just add in a bit of scenery around just to make it look a little bit better for my eyes. So apart from a lot of minor tinkering and iTrain programming, there's not much else to see. But the last video you saw a few trains moving. I'll show you a little bit more now, just because I've got a little bit better programming done, and they run a little bit smoother and I think more effectively. So I'm just going to start my class 50 on its passenger service. So let's get that going, and you should see that that's got some points clicking around now, and it should pull away a little bit slower than before. It speeds up still probably a little bit too quickly, but that's pretty good for me for how I've achieved that. And I'm going to send the 416 off in the other direction there. There is some issue with this 416, which you'll see the flickering light in the front carriage. Not quite sure what that is. It stays on solidly sometimes, flickers on the others. Obviously a loose connection somewhere, so that does need to be pulled up and having a look at. So the 50's coming in now, and it should slow down and stop pretty much exactly where it was before. And then it's sort of on like a timer knowing that it knows that it's in a station area, so it's sort of allowing for an on and off. And the 416 should do the same thing, should stop pretty much exactly where it was, slows down, and there. And just to show the sort of how complex you can get this, I'll put the 108 off on its branch route. So that should come out the side and just to the middle of your right there. Should see it coming on screen. So although the 50 and the 416 are stationary, they are just in a wait phase. So you see the 50 is now going off, and the 416 will go off again after that, whilst the 108 is doing its sort of branch line duties. And again, I've got the freight units in the dock area at the moment. I can send those off on sort of freight duties. And the computer, which I'll sort of show you now, is running all of these trains. So the red is where the train actually is, and the yellow-orange are blocks that are reserved for those trains to go into. So the computer will not allow another train to go in, and hopefully will prevent collisions. So at the moment I've got the 50 running clockwise in the middle, the 416 running anti-clockwise at the top, and the 108 running in both directions on the sort of the bottom or inner line, and it's also sort of running in and out of sidings. So you should see the 108 here coming in, and this should stop without crashing into the buffers. Let's see. Nice, and as you can see, it sort of lines up to where I've placed that platform. So you can get quite accurate with these measurements. And again, this is in a wait phase. So if we look at the 108, you see that sort of yellow bar counting down to the left. And then when that goes down, that will then pull away. And we'll see it will reserve itself a route. And there we go. The 108 has now reserved itself a route, and it's just going to go around the loop. So I've got the class 47 in BR blue down in this side in here. Now I'm going to send it on some freight duties just by clicking the start button here. And again, it says it's not possible, so let's just get it out. And I want to send it, so just to this block here. And this route up, and it will reserve a route, and it will then work out when the 108 is not running around where to go. So you can see over there the 47 is doing some movements. Again, it's obviously going super fast and scale speed. There's a lot of things that you need to go in and change these sort of maximum speeds for things and stuff like that. So there was a lot of finessing, but as you can see, what I've done is a few little clicks with a couple of little computer errors, but it's all being done automatically, and that does make this running very satisfying to watch. And again, this should hopefully stop at the edge of that platform. Okay, so in a nutshell, that's most of what's been going on. As you can see, there is quite a bit of complex running going on, made possible by iTrain. Obviously there are other programs out there, but as you can see, there's a good example. The 108's being held just there because this one's coming out, so it does make some good options available in terms of running. And now the 108 will come into here, and this has all just been done automatically, so the running of this is very user friendly. and you don't have to worry about collisions and things like that. There's a lot more that can be done with this. I mean, I'm just scratching the surface with this, but you know, the complex running that can be done, it's very satisfying. And so just with a couple of button clicks, all this is happening. The other thing I should mention that I've done is with the Class 50, the train is obviously being detected by the current being drawn, and the carriages don't obviously draw current. So the train can be quite long, especially if you've got a few on there, and some of these blocks are shorter than that train length. So if the train is in a block that's short, the carriages will be in the block behind it, but the computer won't know because there's no current being drawn from that. So what I've done is followed a tutorial by Charlie over at Chadwick, and in the very last carriage on the axle bogies, I've added a 10k resistor which will draw current. So it knows that there's still an occupation in this, say, block behind. If it's, so if I show you, sorry about the squeak there. You see this cut in the track? That's one block, and that's another block there. So say if this 50 carriage was overhanging that block, even by sort of quite a bit, the train could come and hit the back of it. But because that's 10k resistors in there, it knows that there's still something in that block, and it won't allow anything to come in behind it. And then again, in iTrain it gets a bit complicated, but you go in and tell that this loco is carrying sort of 3 coaches or 4 coaches or however many coaches you've got, and you put in their lengths as well, and it will know that if there's 2 blocks being occupied, it knows that it's the rear end of that coach that's part of that train. So that will also help avoid any nasty casualties in that sense. So I put everything back to where it is now. I've ended everything, and that was all done automatically. So the 50 is just sitting on that platform. Both the DMUs are parked themselves in there, and the BR Blue has parked itself. And again, you'll see, hopefully, it's a bit shaky, you can see there's a gap between the buffers there, so it knows not to go all the way to the end of the buffers and damage the loco. So again, I've done a lot of waffling here, but I've got a lot of work to do, as you can see. I am in a bit of a dilemma because I'm now at a point where I can either progress with this layout, finish it, commit to it, or finish designing a different layout, pull the track up and relay it. I've been talking to Paul over at Galgram Hall quite a lot, and he's been really helpful. So I'm going to stick a link up to his channel in the screen above you now. Go and subscribe to him. He's got a scratch build series coming up as well, so check that out. And yeah, he's been spending a lot of his free time helping me come up with some ideas and design ideas for a new layout. So yeah, it's a big shout out and thanks to him for that as well. But yeah, so I'm at a point where I either stop, just play trains for a bit, finish the layout, design for a new one, then pull this up and go with a new one, or commit to this layout, start ballasting, start putting the track sides, line side accessories in, get some back scenes up, which I could do anyway, but the back scenes, you know, if I'm going to do a different layout, they may be different. So again, that's another little thing. So my next video will probably be either hopefully a little bit more on iTrain for you people interested, and if you're not, it'll hopefully be a decision as to what's going to happen with the layout. If you have any questions, please do drop them in the comment section below. If you have any ideas for videos that you want to see from this channel now moving forward, because I've done quite a lot on electronics, what do you guys want to see next? Because I'm going to do what I'm going to do with the layout, but I'll just know what to focus on filming depending on what you guys want to see. So yeah, let me know, and please do subscribe, comment, like, etc. And yeah, thanks very much for watching, thanks for sticking with me, and I will wish you all a happy new year and happy modelling. So thanks again. I will talk to you all very soon. Bye bye.